Welcome. This will be in English. Thank you for coming. My name is Eva Korae. I'm, what am I? A designer and a maker. 25 years experience, I believe now, in making. This is Nina and Thomas. They are the Dio collective. They work with organic materials, bone and craft. Panagiotis Pila is a fellow academic at the University of Cyprus, an architect. Michalis is a friend and an architect, also academic at the University of Nicosia. And Andreas is a fellow maker. Dergon is his company in Limassol. Okay, we have a little technical thing that we will work around. So everybody was invited here today without any preparation to discuss what sustainable design is to us. And this started from a student's thesis presentation where I was at in May, where we thought that we were developing sustainable materials, sustainable practices, let's say. But then Marinos, who was the other, the second grader, had a very different opinion as to what was sustainable. And I found this very, very interesting. So Nina and Thomas helped me to finalize a corporate product line of gifts for the Cyprus University of Technology. Those items brought about some questions in making. So I will just go through them now, give you some background, and then we will start the discussion. Okay, I made 30 of these desk organizers in 2022, as I was asked to create corporate gifts for the visitors of the rectors of the European University of Technology Alliance who were visiting Limassol and our university. Generally, I feel that producing corporate gifts is an extremely harmful approach in terms of carbon footprint, because there's always carbon footprint when you're making something. So the most sustainable approach would be to not make anything at all. And in fact, a lot of makers are opting for that, which is not, it brings people down when you think that you can't make anything at all. So it was decided with the agreement of the university's PR department to make it an exercise towards sustainable practice. I did make 30 of these, inspired from the university logo. They were made from stainless steel, cork, found timber, and water-based paint. We used as little electricity as possible by opting for hand techniques. They were indeed gifted to the visiting rectors, and what followed was complete silence. The university was embarrassed to give them. And I know this for a fact because students told me. So they didn't even repost or comment on social media. There was silence. Anyway, we decided to finish them off and to have them as case studies. Salvaged wood from demolishing sites in Limassol. We used animal glue again, and even cork from Cyprus pine, to as well as
oak from
wine
barrels.
Okay. For this desk organizer. This ruler was made from brass and hardwood offcuts. It was assembled using rivets as well as, again, animal glue and marked with a laser cutter. It is fully recyclable and biodegradable. But the question is it ethical to use animal glue? These vases were created from I-beam and C-beam construction waste, as well as discarded test tubes from vanilla pod packages. And the two questions that arise from this are if a maker can promise large quantities if they're only working with offcuts, or and even the size and the shape as well. And is it okay to say that you're making a vase because you're killing the flowers in the first instance? In the second instance, it's a container for cuttings taking root. Okay. These minimal lights were handmade from copper and brass rod. They were made with respect to the material, the craftspeople, and with respect to the material, the makers as craftspeople, and the widespread notions of sustainability. We couldn't find it in Cyprus, so we didn't order through mail orders, but we had a friend bring them from Athens, so we didn't create. I don't know. And the question is, would the Western corporate world accept the obvious yet inevitable imperfections as worthy of more value or less? I mean, you can see that they are not the same up there, and that there are imperfections. So here are all the questions together. Huge. Okay. Would any of the other panelists like to comment on any of what has been said so far? And we can then opt to talking about your practices. But maybe from Nina and Thomas, how did you see the way that we worked to finalize them?
Well, we also worked on prototypes. So we were trying to find ways to use material sustainably.
Also in some, like the rulers, for example, we were testing different techniques. So one of the rulers has only animal glue. One of them has animal glue and rivets, and the third one only has rivets. And we're testing, is it possible to, for example, leave the glue away permanently? Also, the one main issue that we wanted to fix or try to fix was that you had feedback that they didn't look valuable. So we wanted to change some materials that we have found out that people think that they are more valuable by the history of materials, let's say brass and copper, and but also them being recyclable or recycled.
Why do you think they look more valuable?
In the history of if you look the let's say furnitures or classical tools or expensive things, certain materials like gold, for example, it has value. Everybody knows it has value, but why does it have a value? Is it does it actually have? Okay, it has a technical abilities, very interesting abilities, but is it something that we have decided that it has a value? So if you put it there, does it raise the value of the product more than let's say aluminium, which is also very interesting material? Like for example, if I remember right, in Danish royal, they used to have aluminium plates back in the 18 or 1700 when it's very rare, when it was very rare. And now, if it's not, when it's not anymore rare, the value of the material maybe has gone a little bit down. So this was the one thing that we wanted to do.
The proposals that I had while making was, can you make something out of clear acrylic? And for some reason that sort of looks more finalized. And I wonder whether it's down to it being shiny, just shiny. It's one of the things that really make me wonder, and also the weight. We've had some requests about the item needing to have a specific weight so as to appear worthy of the price. In this case, with the metal and everything, I mean, in the case where we made these things, and I would like to hear from all of you. When the use is finished, then you can put the I-beams or the what used to be a vase into the recycling. We have a neighbor who sells iron for to make a living. Is this a sustainable practice? To make things out of metal, which is still something that is extracted from the earth, and then giving it to somebody who can feed their family out of it. Michali? We need to have the microphone for the recording.
Does it make a difference? Yes?
For the recording.
It's for the recording. Okay. Thanks, Eva, for the presentation. Okay, we did work, at least at the University of Nicosia, in some projects related to reusing offcuts, if you like, and metal offcuts, actually, and I suppose that's why the question comes to me. And maybe that could somehow fill the fourth point, right? Offcuts by nature obviously cannot fill large quantities, right? It's a bit like seasonal food I was thinking about. Okay, it comes every season, so you know that there is an amount, no more next season. You have to wait the next season, right? So, however, what was interesting is that we developed a methodology with which we could reutilize these offsets. And that might be actually... Offcuts, sorry. Yeah, because there was an offset in the offcuts. Okay, so within this methodology, we are able, and at the same time using digital fabrication, which I've seen that you have been using in some of the projects. I think we were able to take advantage, okay, of these offcuts with any possible design. So what we literally did is we developed these algorithms with which we could translate, in a way, a design by any designer, and then feed it automatically into those offcuts, right? So obviously, depending on the material, you could have a different result in a way. So it's
Can you also give a little bit of background?
Okay, yes. Actually, one of our work is standing in the square right now, is the sculpture, the weird thing, alien thing, standing there. And there is another one in Eleftheria Square. It's more like a cone of rusted metal and galvanized steel. Okay, so those are both projects of the University of Nicosia. We've done other projects as well with other materials. Those two are particularly out of metal. So through the last 5 years that we ran a master's program in computational design and digital fabrication, one of the briefs is how could you reuse all this scrap material that would end up into landfills, or they would end up into scrap and recycling. How could you reuse that and digital fabrication, which means machinery that get, let's say, information from computers to do something with them. Obviously, the outcome was a bit, let's say, exemplified or exaggerated, just to prove the concept, right? So we're not expecting to fill up the world with alien structures, right? So we wanted to show that this is possible. So what we have actually done is that we went to marble manufacturers, acrylic manufacturers, metal manufacturers in Cyprus, cardboard. We used recycling cardboard. So we got those parts, and we got into a process first to register them, because one of the problems is that they all come in different sizes, right, and shapes. So one of the things is, how do I have an inventory of those things so I can then use them in relatively large quantities, right? So yes, they are different and seasonal, but we assume that every season I have a quantity. So one thing was to register them. And then the second thing is design, or let's say use them for a certain design, right? So we developed programs that would automate this process. So essentially the designer will be able to manufacture things like, or propose things like the ones you've shown, and then have these tools to fit them automatically into the different shapes and produce things out of them. So there is certainly, we believe, a value in that. We are currently writing a paper, and it might fit very well into what you're saying. And what I wanted to add is actually the beauty of the whole process is that every time the material is kind of different. So for that one, we utilized in Eleftheria Square, we did find galvanized and mild steel, for example. So we had to use that as part of the design. It was a small detail, right? So in a way, there is always this component that, okay, what do I have in hand? Could that be part of my design? Maybe it cannot, right? Or maybe it is, because it will give me some incentives and some directions that could lead, exactly like what you said with copper, or this time I find this material. Maybe I have the tools, but maybe with this, I can think to adjust my design accordingly. Yeah?
Could it also work with the natural shapes? Could it also work with the natural shapes? You know for example, the chair model that we are working in Fini, which has a bended wood.
That's a very nice question. Actually, most of the research relates, actually in our domain, relates to natural found objects. So the first studies dealt with tree branches or trunks, right? Which were 3D scanned, and then people would design with them. We tried to go with more mainstream material, the ones that are already in sheet form, okay, and they are simply discarded. So because we thought everybody neglects those and goes to the most difficult part. So we wanted to see whether that approach could also be more mainstream in a way, because yeah, scanning a 3D trunk, piece of wood, might already impose much more constraints in designing with it, right? Like what you showed us with the shape of so yes, I could scan it and then, let's say, use it in specific purposes. Whereas what we do is still sheet material. Somebody can design from scratch out of that, fold it in a specific way or cut it in a specific way, and so on and so forth.
Okay.
Eva.
Ναι, νομίζω. Θες να πεις κάτι?
Okay, in my experience, I'm 3D printing using recycled materials. In my experience, a very important thing is that we need background. Okay, I have a background in architecture. I have, since my studies, I have really focused in recycled 3D printing, where I use flakes. I shred plastic and print it, and usually find it in industries that throw it away. In Cyprus, is the easiest thing to find waste. Everybody wants to get rid of it. So, and now they pay to get rid of it. So They are full of, they are very happy if you're taking their waste. I am situated in the industrial area of Ayos Silas in Limassol. If you get the car and go from one industry to the other, it is their biggest problem. They are currently paying for what they're wasting. And honestly, I get the question all the time, where do you get your waste? I walk 10 meters away from the factory. It's especially plastic is everywhere. There are industries in the industrial area of Ayos Silas that they, for example, they produce tanks of plastic. They cannot repeat the process because the material loses its qualities. So if they put it back into a mold, for example, they are not going to have the same result. And it's there. They don't want to throw it because they have to pay, and it's piled up. That happens also with concrete. It also happens a lot with wood. And all of these materials in the industrial areas, they are everywhere. And I get the feeling if you walk around, because I usually take a walk in the morning before going to my office, now because they have to pay, every time I walk around, I feel that the waste is growing in their backyards. I mean, it's getting a meter high every some months. So in my understanding, because I'm using digital means to fabricate my things. I don't have the experience that Mihalis have in such a broad variety. I focused only in one material. My opinion is that we all need to downscale a bit and push ourselves to find the easiest and processes that we can reuse. But we need to start, I think, not from the material always, but from the tools. And that's the way you fabricate end results that don't look recycled in a way, because I also get the comment back, why is it not shiny, the chair? Why is it scratchy? Why is it whatever? So I think we really need to go a step back and work more on the tools and the processes instead of the material to a certain level. This is what I think. I mean, because when you are upcycling, I don't know, maybe people are not trained to see an end result that is upcycled, and they don't want to pay for it sometimes. So I think the best way to push them to get an end product that is upcycled is to go a bit back on the processes, on the tools, to find ways to make beautiful and more interesting results using the means first, and then go to the material. That's my feeling and that's my experience. I don't know. Maybe Mihalis has, or someone else here have. Mihalis, no. Eva.
We have all these conversations, and you really spend a lot of time in the workshop thinking, how can I make this with as little waste as possible? And then you go to Jumbo. And you feel that the whole thing is pointless. So I wonder which is easier to develop the tools to make things shinier or more attractive to the common eye, or to change people's way of thinking of what is beautiful. With this, I would also like to introduce Panayota and hear a little bit about heritage and taste and awareness and all that, and where we stand in Cyprus.
Thanks. This is nice. Huh? It's shiny and fluffy. Let me start smaller than going to talk about heritage, etc., because I was thinking of that fourth. Let me start from that fourth question.
Okay, and I will put this here. I took these photos for you, Panayota.
Okay. Yes. Um, well, thinking of, let me start from that question and enlarge slowly, because it seems to me, if we take that question, can we make large amounts of materials if we only have scrap, etc.? We immediately come to this issue of not only what the maker can promise, but also what the end user, what the user expects. The other issues that you mentioned also, what do they value? If it's gold, they value it. This has to do not only with aesthetics, if it's shiny or not, but also with socially constructed views of what is valuable, what is worthy, etc. So that question makes me think, why should we promise large quantities? Why should we get used to, for example, the fact that these things will be different? Because that's what if we are using what is available, like you said, if we are using what I have at hand, then maybe uniformity is not that important. Why is uniformity a criterion? It was a criterion when copying was economical, when making the same thing in the factory was more economical, so uniformity was good. But if you are making it by hand from scrap, why is uniformity any longer important? So it seems that our aesthetics need to change, and you said it already when you said we have to train people, etc. Aesthetics and the sense of value, anyway, they are socially constructed. So there has to be some effort, and I don't know if it's training the people or if it's sensitizing them to this new criteria. I don't know how exactly this training can happen. But certainly it seems to me that the issues you touched on, aesthetics, value, practicality, because you said if it's light, they don't like it. I'm sure if it was very heavy, if it was made with I-beams, they wouldn't like it. So practicality, all of these things are not absolutes. They are socially constructed, and they need to we need to modify them and rethink them, just as we rethink what we waste. I'm also thinking, before I come to heritage, I had another thought as you were talking about what would happen. I wanted to ask you, Eva, what would happen if they did like it? What would this say to the maker? Because if they did like it, we can say, okay, success, because they like it, we can use it, and also because it means they are trained enough to have new aesthetics and new values. But then it seems to me that immediately there's another challenge. It has to be a continual challenge to the maker. It will never be, you will never feel successful. You're never supposed to feel successful because there is then the new task, I guess, of rethinking again, figuring out more economies, I guess. I don't know. I wonder what the tasks would be. Would they be, I have to rethink the tools even more, I have to minimize the material even more? I don't know. But I suppose every success would bring new demands. Yeah. Yeah. You want me to say something about it, or next round?
Yeah, I think, let me give some background.
Yes.
We live in gentrified Limassol. This is in our neighborhood, I think 500 square meters, not more, 4 building sites at least. 1, 2, huh? What, 7? 7 buildings. She can't have a quiet coffee. I think more than 5 modernist houses, some of them full of the furnishings, demolished, completely lost, to build new ones. So there definitely is no heritage awareness, but also all this fine raw material, because you can see it, it's fine. Like the floorboards and the door casings, they can be reused. So everything is gone. And I was listening to a podcast where it says that we need to start discussing about the ethics of designing and stop this madness of extracting from the earth, shipping it around the globe, building, and then 70 years later demolishing and wasting all that material. And this podcast was saying that I think it was a state in the States, every one person demolishing manages to employ 7 people who gather all this stuff. And how do they do it? Just by a post on Facebook. I am about to demolish this on Friday. And people just walk in and get whatever they want. And then they sell it. So it's not very easy. It's not very difficult, but we're still not doing it. So, yes, Panagiota, is there something you would like to say about this practice or? Demolishing and I think at the moment in Cyprus there is no appreciation of the modernist era.
There is, it's true, there was just before, let me just give a sort of be a historian for a second to say that before sustainability became a big trend, at least in architecture, the big trend was obsolescence, which was the exact opposite. It was actually saying that in America there were laws that said if it's 40 years, the building can be demolished, no problem. And this idea of obsolescence did not go away, even as sustainability came to replace it. I mean, there is obsolescence in industrial design. There is obsolescence in the way electronics are designed. You need to get the new iPhone in 6 months, even if the other one is working. So this obsolescence is so entrenched that, and I think it has to do with why they didn't like the pencil holders. The sense of the new is still considered better. Newness, brand new, the brand new has a value. So there is an irony, I think, in that even if we are becoming increasingly sensitive to reuse and recycling and sustainability overall, there is still the ghost of obsolescence is still sort of permeating the way we perceive materials and products, I think. And this is part of the problem. And definitely it's true in modern architecture, even more so, because modern architecture was created to present and promote newness and freshness and hygiene, etc. So when it starts looking like this, it seems like it no longer fulfilled its purpose. And again, there needs to be some rethinking to actually appreciate again in a new lens what this is happening. So here there is 2 things. There is the aesthetics of it, and then there is the materiality of it. They are 2 different things. And if we wanted to tackle the issue of built heritage, we have to recognize both the aesthetics and whether our socially constructed aesthetics has to be re-evaluated, and then the materiality of it. The truth is, it's a small detail, but because you guys seem to understand materials a lot, some of this material is toxic. Let's say some of this material, let's say some copper that was sort of, it rains and that water goes into the underground. Some of it doesn't excuse the demolishing of this, but some of it is toxic. So if you have what they call toxic heritage, what do you do? That's one of the big dilemmas, it seems to me.
I will ask Andreas and Michalis a couple of questions more, and then move on to making and the ethics in a smaller scale. Andrea, in abroad, again, they wanted to stop the flow of plastic in the rivers. We probably in Cyprus we don't have it in the rivers yet, but they created this plastics bank. So plastic is monetized. So every so many kilos you get so many dollars, and there is a commerce going on. Do you think this is something that could be applied in Cyprus since the model is not working? And would you be willing, that's a completely different question, would you be willing to put in the time to design differently to cater for the needs of your material?
Well, I think everything comes with a price when it comes to plastics, because I had a good friend, Haris Poulaidis, that used to have the biggest recycling plant in Cyprus. The whole thing collapsed in 2.5 years' time. He was really close to the place that I work. The reasons are several, but the main is scale. You are living in an island, so recycling in such a small scale, if you have India, China recycling, it's a bit of it's not an easy thing to do. And when it comes to plastics, one thing that I have realized is that everything is price. What is the price of polypropylene, for example? Today, it's 1.0 to the stock market. Does it worth recycling it? No. We don't do anything about it. We just throw it away. So the idea that you're talking about, it's good. I'm not sure if it's applicable locally. I think we need to be more strict when it comes to the laws we follow regarding plastic recycling. If you give incentives, that's also a very good thing. But I think that we need to start again. I'm very careful on what I'm saying now. Is that we need to start from the smaller things, then go to the one you said. We need to start recycling ourselves. But a very interesting thing is, again, the industrial area that I am now. I think they need to push them to do recycling. In many cases, it's easy. They don't. Everything is piled up in a skip in Cyprus. If you're innovating, if you're not even the green points that you go and throw things in Cyprus, they do not accept more waste for, I don't know the reason why. If you increase the price of mixed waste when you are doing a renovation, for example, people will push themselves to go to the green points and divide their waste. This is a very simple thing that I'm saying, and we can do it without having the restriction from the municipalities. Oh, you brought more than a car. I can bring 3 trucks if I want to. If it's divided, then what's the problem? We need to start from small things to go to the level of to that level that you're talking about. Because one of the main reasons that business that do recycling, they are not profitable in Cyprus, because we don't even do the very basic things to divide our waste in plastic, metal, glass, and so on. you need to start from somewhere and then go to subcategorize some things. Because PVC, chemically structured, is completely different to PP, for example. We need to start dividing the plastic, and then we'll see what we are going to do with the rest of the plastic that we have piled up. And we need to put regulations, so somehow divide things, and then make the whole thing more profitable for a businessman to recycle, or for small businesses to reuse. If we are putting everything in a mixed skip, then end of story. You stop there. And I think that's very crucial. I mean, we usually, when we're having discussions in Cyprus, we are talking about huge things, as if we are, I don't know, Australia. In reality, we need to start from small scale again. Industrial areas in Cyprus, they are full of waste. Take a car and go around. And they are throwing, even the wood they throw, which is, for me, is a simpler material to recycle. It's mixed in skips. In factories in Cyprus, no division, no nothing. So I think that's a...
Thank you. Yes, it's a very big chapter, the way that green points are not operating. In Cyprus, we hope to have a specialist to explain the situation, but he's away. Yes, there is some terror when it comes to going to the green point. I take different cars, so they don't know it's me. Sometimes I call beforehand and say, I'm emptying my storeroom, can I come? Yes, there is intimidation for a person who wants to do recycling well. Michali, you are also working in the larger buildings in niche areas and all that. Are you able to introduce sustainable elements in Limassol skyscrapers or anywhere?
Good point. It depends how we define sustainable. So if you're relating to materials, as you already said, we tend to source a lot of materials from abroad, right? However, there is another aspect that might hint sustainability, is the processes, right, that are involved. And I will explain what I mean. Processes in the sense of you do not only need to source the material, but you also need to form it into a certain shape, right? So that's already part of the chain, right? So, and then it's not also form it, is install it, right? So usually in Cyprus, right, traditionally, we didn't have high-rise buildings, yeah, we have lately, which means advanced expertise in a way. So in order to put these buildings together, you need processes that might have not been in place before. Right? So I can mention a building that comes to my mind now. There are a couple of them that have what we call cladding. Cladding is the external shape of a building, which usually is like another material. And lately in Limassol, we see buildings that have quite complex claddings, right? Like the one or the oval, right? Now, I don't want to discuss design and complexity. That obviously that's not a part that we were involved in. So why do you get a decision, okay, to design a building like this? I think I will draw a line there and maybe discuss what's happening afterwards, because somebody needs to put this building together. Obviously, we can open that discussion as well if you like, but okay, maybe, I don't know, that will go too far. Anyway, when you have to put something like this together, it means somebody needs to design it, somebody needs to source the material, somebody needs to form the material. Then you have all these people that are called to put this thing together. Obviously, sustainability could be part of this process as well. Now, if you manage to do a lot of those things locally, I think that could help sustainability. Right? So yes, we do not produce aluminum in Cyprus, but we have the capability to form it and install it, right? It's just you need, again, the right processes or the people and the expertise locally. And I think that's something that we did manage to do, and that maybe that was like a small contribution towards making those buildings a bit more sustainable. In other circumstances, it means all of these processes would have been done abroad. It means that you would need to bring people back and forth, right, to put these things together. If you manage to, okay, material-wise, yeah, you accept that, okay, decision was taken about metal, but if you manage to, let's say, design, fabricate, install everything locally, then I think that's part of sustainability of the process.
Thank you, very interesting. Nina, you haven't spoken. So in the way we worked with these things, we also had these discussions about opting to use leather instead of a fabric that's not as natural, or using animal glue instead of PVA glue. We have here, I think, a clash of sustainability and organic making. How do you see this clash, and do you feel the clash when you're making?
It's nothing else than clashes. But, well, sustainability is not one right option and everything else was the wrong, or the other way around. So there's always so many aspects to consider, and all the materials have this whole chain of events that can be rated in different sustainability aspects. So we tried to leave all plastic out from the whole project, and we didn't manage. But then the glue, we thought we could replace the plastic glue with animal glue, so we won't have the problems of the plastic. And then comes the question: is it ethical to use animal glue or leather or other animal-based materials? And it depends, because it depends how much you use, what kind of a production chain there is to get that material. Are you getting leather from a huge leather industry, or are you using the skin of an animal that was killed for food, and the skin would have gone to the garbage, which happens a lot also in Cyprus? Or are you using the leather of an animal, the skin of an animal that was raised with respect to its rights when it was alive? And did you do that in a sensible scale and use everything from its body when it was killed? So meat, leather, bones, nails, tendons, everything. That's possible. So in our project, in the prototypes, we thought of, if we need glue, it has these aspects. Also, then a person who is vegan or the religion does not allow a specific animal to be used, then they cannot use it. There is also the personal morals and ethics. It's not only the sustainability of the footprint it leaves in the ecology.
Thomas? you want to add something?
I can add, and also that is it recycled? Like in the bone work, you can recycle. So upcycle. Yes, yes. So you always have you have to always make a choice. You have to know what, or I think that it's better if you see through the process, you know the material, and then as a craft maker, you can make a decision based on the facts, and then it's easier to. But always you have good and bad sides. It's a complicated process, and sometimes it's a mentally also hard process, because the best option is always the avoid. But in capitalistic structure, you have to make decisions to produce. So, and in animal products, it's quite different than in plastics. It has different aspects, but it's hard to say which way to go sometimes.
So it's down to everybody's morals, how to do things and how to design.
You have to. It's good to know. I think the transparency is the thing. That you as small scale, it's easy, but if you're building houses that are 200 meters high, it's quite complicated to know exactly all the materials and the ways and the laws and the who gets paid and who's not getting paid. Of course, you know from some products that they are less ethical than others, but still you have to build. So it's for us it's much easier if you have, let's say, 3 different materials. It's quite easy to see through which is what and what are the benefits and what are the downsides. But of course, in big scale, it's complicated.